Thank you for tuning into another episode. I just wanted to give you a heads up because we did run into some internet issues, which just made it a little bit jolty, but I hope it doesn't have too much effect on it. But I hope you enjoy, and thanks again for tuning in.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Grow Your Practice podcast. My name is Lachlan Hetherington, and I have the special privilege of chatting with MaryEllen today, who is the owner of the Foot Stop Podiatry service. How are you going today?
I'm going well, and yourself?
I'm good, thank you very much. Now, you don't mind if I just ask you 5 introduction questions so we can all just really get to know you a bit more?
Please do.
Awesome. All right, so who inspires you?
That's a very good question. And I feel like I've been asked this question a few times, and I've never really got one person that's really inspirational for me. I feel like I gain a lot of my inspiration from all of those around me. And I know it sounds like a bit of a cop-out answer, but I don't look up to one person in particular. I guess that's how I've grown my business as well. I look, and I've got a lot of mentors. I look to a lot of people for different things. So I look to my parents, I look to my own husband, I look to my children. Actually, they've changed a lot in how I view the world as well. So I look up to a lot of people. I also look up to my employees, my brothers and sisters, other people like yourselves doing things in healthcare, but in a slightly different way. So I guess I gain a lot of inspiration from all of those around me.
Yeah, wow. Awesome. Now, what was your dream occupation growing up?
Goodness, my dream. So I grew up on a sheep and beef farm in New Zealand, doing all of the farm kid things. So healthcare really, I guess, was a goal of mine. My mother is a physiotherapist, and I've got a lot of health practitioners in the family. So I think the goal profession growing up was probably a health practitioner. And then later in high school, I did some research and decided podiatry was for me, but that was a lot later on, after I had spent many a year in a gumboot.
Yes. Oh, okay. And what is your main hobby currently?
Trying to get some sleep.
Trying to get some sleep.
So honestly, I used to love playing tennis and running and going to the beach. And I know a lot of your viewers and listeners will agree with this. When you have children, and I have 3 of them now and run a company, I really don't have a lot of time for hobbies, specifically when you have a baby. I guess my hobby would be spending time with my children at the moment, but I have goals to get back into sport when the kids get a little bit older.
Yeah, I'm sure that will happen. Now, what is your dream location to travel to?
Ooh, well, anywhere apart from Australia at the moment.
Yes,
right?
yeah, exactly.
I think I would love to go back to Spain. I really loved spending time in Spain. And just here around the Gold Coast, there's a lot of beautiful places that you can visit. So those would probably be my 2. And New Zealand. So I'm a New Zealander. Going back to New Zealand would be a lovely travel destination as well.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question on where did you grow up? But I think we've answered that. You grew up in New Zealand. So really take us back to sort of the beginning of it all. So sort of growing up in New Zealand all the way through to becoming a podiatrist.
Right. Yeah, so I grew up in New Zealand. I was born in 1990. So that makes me 31 now. I was born to a sheep and beef farmer and a physiotherapist, my mum and dad, and I lived home on the farm with them until I was 12, and then I went to boarding school. So that makes you quite independent from quite a young age. I relied upon myself a lot, and I learned how to be very independent quite quickly being at boarding school. I was very interested in healthcare, so pursued that during my university years, and then fell in love with a physiotherapy student, moved to Australia and worked as a podiatrist and loved my job. And I just was a little disenchanted with the fact that there was a lot of people left out and they were unable to gain access to podiatry treatment, those people that couldn't get into a podiatry clinic. So I took it upon myself to create no behind as such. So we take our gold standard podiatry services to anywhere and anybody that requires it.
Yeah, okay.
So I started up a home visit podiatry company from there.
Yeah, okay. So when you obviously graduated from uni, did you go into the private health sector straight away, or did you go through in try have a couple of years in the public, or yeah, what really happened with that journey?
So I studied at AUT University in Auckland in New Zealand. My husband, well, he wasn't my husband at the time. He was my boyfriend, was over here in Australia. So I made the jump straight away. I didn't work in New Zealand at all. I moved straight to northern New South Wales and worked for a private company, for a private podiatry company. I didn't work in the public health system. I did extensive placements in the public health sector in New Zealand, but I felt like my calling was in the private sector at that stage of my life. Yes.
Yeah. So what really sort of clicked that you went and wanting to start your own practice? What was there any sort of inspiration? As you mentioned before, there was, offering services to people that, weren't able to get those. So yeah, I'd love to sort of hear that whole journey on really how you got started.
Yes, so I touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'll reiterate. I loved podiatry, but I did see patients in many rural towns that really struggled to get podiatry services. The podiatrist only visited once a month, and they weren't able to get out of their houses to gain access to services. So it could have been 6 months between visits. Yeah, and by the time we saw them, they had major issues with their feet that was so preventable. So that's when I took it upon myself to start this mobile practice where we provide services in a patient's home, and in doing so are able to really improve independence, foot health, quality of life, and many other things as well.
Yeah. So did the business just start off as just you going off doing home visits yourself?
Yes. So I started the business in 2014. I had a 1-year-old at the time, and it was just me. I was the everything. Wow. I was the receptionist and the administrator, and the podiatrist. I used to answer the phone, pull over my car to the side of the road, answer the phone on my way to the next patient's house. I used to book patients in at the end of the day, on my way home, and I used to treat patients every Saturday when my husband was home, because he was studying medicine at the time. And from there, I grew really quickly through word of mouth and liaising with GPs, and hired my first employee, which was very stressful financially at the time, because you just you doubt yourself. You think, oh, can I afford to pay this person? I'll have to give them my whole caseload in order for them to be able to, have great billables. And from there, I guess I got stuck into promotion, and in the time that I normally would have been treating patients, I would be using that time to liaise with case managers, doctors, anybody that would listen to me. From there, grew another caseload, and then hired more staff, and then so on and so forth. And then now we have several podiatrists in the clinic, and we treat thousands, tens of thousands of patients a year.
Yeah. So how long were you on by yourself? Because my mum's a podiatrist here in Adelaide, and she really struggled with that. But once she sort of found a home base and people were able to visit her, then that sort of cut off a lot of that. So how long were you sort of really by yourself before you brought on your first member?
I think it would have been the best part of a year.
Yeah.
And then the first team member that I brought on was 3 days per week. And then another one was 2 days per week, and then someone else was full-time after that. So I think it was around about a year, or maybe a year or 18 months just by myself. And even then, I think the administrators came in about a year or two after that.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah.
So I was doing the lion's share of the work for probably 2.5 years before, and still do, but just at a different level of management now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, wow. So what's the competition like out? Because you're not quite in the Gold Coast, you're just below when I was having a look. Yeah, what is the sort of scope of competition around there?
Yeah, so we're based in the southern Gold Coast. Our clinic is in Elanora, which is in the southern end of the Gold Coast, but our service area is very large.
Yeah.
So we service anywhere from Brisbane, right down across the border into New South Wales, down to sort of Ballina, Lismore areas. As with the competition, yes, there's quite a lot of other podiatrists around, and we love that. I don't think that it ever should be just one podiatrist getting all of the referrals. There's a reason. You know, lots of patients prefer other personalities or modalities or how people do things differently. I guess I've structured this practice to try to use gold standard practices, treat our staff and our clients really well, and use ethical and positive business practices. And we get a lot of referrals for that reason, but there is definitely competition around.
Oh, yeah.
But the problem at the moment is there's not enough podiatrists around. So everyone's got a lot of work, or too much work than they can handle, and there's just not enough podiatrists to do the work.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So how do you go with staffing? Because as you said, you're all the way down to the New South Wales border. Is that so? Do you have a system? Is it really a pop-up and they've got a schedule on their daily basis? So would you be able to walk me through, sort of this day-to-day operations of one of your podiatrists?
Absolutely. So we use a cloud-based software called Owner Health. Shout out to Ben.
Yeah.
It's an Australian software, and the best part about this software is it's tailored to mobile practices. Okay. So you put in your 10 patients for the day, you click a button, and it puts them in the most geographically sound way, I guess, to minimize travel for the day. So our administration team book them, they check to the patient, they confirm all the visit, the podiatrist picks up all the instruments and required equipment for the day and heads to their first patient. They can literally click on their iPad that we issue them, because everything that we have is cloud-based, which is really important for us. They click on a little button that takes them to the maps and it navigates them to their first patient house. They click on another button and open up the patient notes, create a new patient note, treat the patient, save that note, click on another button, drives them to the next, and they go to the next patient's house. So they do that for however many houses the patients they're seeing for the day, and then they come back to the clinic in Elanora, do a bit of a handover with our admin team if required, and switch their instruments, get any required equipment for the next day, and off they head home. We really like to have them switch off. So after they have finished for the night or for the afternoon, we don't want them to contact us. We want them to switch off and just, enjoy their evening. So that's why we have a lot of, structure in our workplace to be able to allow them to do that. We recognise it's only a job. They should love their job. We hope they love their job, but we really need them to love their life as well.
For sure. So how many patients are they actually seeing a day? Because obviously when you're traveling, I'd love to sort of hear that average on sort of how many patients they're seeing.
So it very much depends on how well structured the day is. So if we have, for example, our current suburb that I'm living in is Palm Beach. So if everybody on the day lives in Palm Beach, then it's very minimal travel. And in the 8-hour day, they could probably see 13 patients or 14 patients if there's a husband and wife team. So then there's less travel, right? If the patients are more spread out, then it might be more like 10. So it realistically depends on how many patients are booked in certain geographical areas. And sometimes the day falls apart. Sometimes they start off with 14 patients. One ends up in hospital, one's unwell, one has got another appointment that day. And so you're able to tag on somebody else in a surrounding suburb instead of, you probably could have seen 3 in the same suburb. But we're probably seeing 12, 13 patients per day if structured.
Now, what would your sort of best piece of advice for someone that is really looking to start, a practice and get into the market?
I would say do your research, figure out what you're passionate about, and then just start, because you don't know the challenges that are ahead of you until you actually start that practice. So I think in this day and age, it's really great to have a bit of a niche market. For me, at the time, it was the mobile practice.
Yeah.
We have a clinic now as well, but it was the mobile practice, and I was really passionate about that. So it was really easy for me to talk anybody's ear off about why that was such a great business structure. And it is because I'm passionate about it. But because I was passionate about it, I did a lot of research, I spoke to a lot of people, and I really tried hard to get it off the ground. I think getting mentors in different areas is really important as well. So if you can get another business owner that you can have a chat with, and I think getting a mentor that isn't feeling like you're going to take over their practice is really important as well. You need someone with experience and that doesn't see you as competition, so they're probably well established. So I'd say get a mentor, do your research, find out what you're passionate about, and then just start. And then from there, you'll have a million questions, and hopefully you can surround yourself by a great team of people that can provide some really good advice as those issues or challenges come up.
So what are you finding more popular, the home visit side of things, or people actually coming into the clinic? Because obviously a lot of it is surrounded around the home visit side of things, but is that really picking up, the location-based?
Definitely, with our ageing population, and I guess our target market being the aged and disabled it is difficult for them to leave their home. We are finding more and more as well that we are treating young mums with kids who it's easier for us to see them at home. People working from home, they're not going into the office anymore, so they're working from home. We come and see them in their lunch break. So we see all fly in, fly out workers. When they're home with their families, we're able to go and see them. So we're finding that even though we started this business for the aged and disabled and those with travel restrictions or unable to get out of home, has now grown into a lot, well, all of us really, because we're going out much less than we were. So I would say, because that's our target market, our home visits are definitely always growing. We're growing so quickly each month, but the clinic is growing really well as also. So that's an adjunct for us. So originally the admin staff were working here in my home office, and then we got a little bit busy, so we had to get an office space. And I thought, why not create a clinic as well? So that's why we're diversifying a bit with the clinic. But the home visits are always going to be needed. And I guess we're so well established in that area as well.
Now, regards marketing, because obviously you said you were getting a lot of your new patients through word of mouth and GPs and all that. Did you ever, explore advertising in any shape or form? Yeah, I'd love to.
Absolutely, yes. So we have a Google AdWords campaign, one for the clinic and one for our mobile services. So that's 2. We do some SEO and back-end stuff with our marketing lady, Gabby from Spot On Marketing here on the Gold Coast. And I guess we do just general liaising, phone calls, chatting, relationship building with our current referrers as well. So yes, we do a lot of advertising and marketing as it comes up. And our SEO has been reasonably recent, probably the last 12 months. We have really noticed an increase in traffic for our website and phone calls and whatnot since then. So I think it's really important. And that's your domain, isn't it?
Yes, that is my domain, SEO and all that. So what is the plan moving forward with the Footstop podiatry service? What's the plan? Are you going to open up another location? Are you looking to add more? Obviously, as you said, there's huge demand to add more podiatrists. I'd love to hear that.
It's a really scary question, actually, but they say if it's not scary, it's not worth doing, right? That's what they say, but it's still scary. Look, I think at this stage we're really looking to consolidate and really perfect our practices here And then once that's completed, I can't see why we can't be a national provider.
Wow.
So once we've got all the relationships with so many aged care providers, we're really working to try and consolidate our practices and policies and procedures. And then from there, I think we could realistically reproduce in any state, reproduce our team and, grow that way. So it sounds scary to say that, but I think probably in our 5 to 7 year plan, I would like to be giving that a really good crack.
Yeah, wow. Okay, that sounds awesome. I'm keen to sort of really see how it turns out. And I'd love to hear, because obviously with that, you're going to have a large amount of recruitment processes. So what are your current, is it word of mouth? Is it through Seek, LinkedIn? Yeah, I'd love to hear your sort of recruitment process.
So it's really tricky with podiatrists. With our admin team, it's Seek. We generally find a lot of people through Seek. With podiatry, I've always got a Seek ad active, but podiatrists are really hard to come by. So we have got we try to create some relationships with the universities and the new graduates that are coming out. And we really love working with new graduates because I think they're really the future of our profession. So if we're able to help train them and keep them passionate clinicians, then we're doing a great job. So with recruitment, it's really tricky, but we generally use Seek and then posting on job boards from the university websites as well as where we've been. And so the experienced clinicians tend to use Seek and the new graduates tend to use a combination of Seek and the university website job advertisement boards.
Yeah, I'd love to hear sort of the process with obviously new grads. Do you have them based in your current location, your main location, and then you allow them to go out and do their own, or do you stand by them and really train them up? So what's your sort of
I see. So we've got a really strong what we call a shadowing program or a mentoring program. So when a new graduate comes on board, it realistically depends on how confident and how competent the new graduate is. And it doesn't say anything about how good or bad they are. It just says something about how confident they are in their, skills as such. So for the first week, we would have them shadowing us. And I know they're fully fledged podiatrists. Legally, they can treat, but we really feel like we'd love them to see what we do. So we would have them shadowing a senior podiatrist or a couple of senior podiatrists. And then the second week we would have them treating and we would be shadowing them. And this is full time. So they'd have one-on-one mentoring throughout the whole probably first month realistically, which is very different from every other provider. We do put a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort into our new graduates because we really want them to feel confident when they're going out, specifically because they're going out to do mobile home visits, right? So they can't just pop next door and talk to their colleague if something doesn't look quite right. So and then from there, we have them shadowing at least once a week, probably for the first 6 months. So we deliberately overhire. So we've got more podiatrists than we need so that we're able to offer that for our new graduates.
Okay. And do you have a fleet of cars, or are they all in their personal cars and it's just all obviously software is all remotely and everything? So is there a fleet? Do you use a fleet, or is it personal cars?
Yes, so we used to use and then earlier this year, mid this year, I think it was actually, we invested in a fleet of cars. So we've got a whole lot of little white cars out on the road that stop on the side of them. And I find that's really great for marketing as well. And I feel the patient probably feels more confident because they know who's driving in their driveway. And so do the neighbours. The neighbours know who's visiting, the elderly person, and everyone feels a bit more confident and relaxed when they walk to the front door.
Yeah, wow. Well, that's pretty much all I've got for you, MaryEllen. That's been really insightful, and I'm really keen to sort of follow you along in really, your Australia's domination, but with the home visit side of things. But I'm really keen if you'd like to add anything at all. But it's been awesome to have a chat, and I can't wait to follow along.
Thanks, Lachlan. No, thanks for having me. I think it sounds really scary to put your goals out to the world.
Oh, for sure.
but I think that's the only way that you can actually act on them.
Yeah.
If someone makes you accountable at some stage along the path. So I think, look, and I don't do this alone. We've got a wonderful team of humans around us. You know, we hire on personality and people that are able to add to our team and our goal. So we're, looking at growing all of the time and seeing what opportunities arise next. So that would be our long-term goal. So I really hope that we can get there. I know we can get there. It's just going to be finding the right people to help us get there, I guess.
Well, I hope you can look back on this podcast and see that you've obviously achieved all your wanted goals in 5 to 6 years. Yes, but thank you all for tuning in. It's been awesome, and watch out for the new episodes coming out. Thanks for your time again, MaryEllen.